and I'm not going to get that time back.
And you should enjoy that chapter of singleness. It shouldn't be something you're desperately trying to escape from. Right. Singleness is a gift because it allows you the only time in your adult life to focus on yourself, 100%. To grow at your pace, to only think about yourself, to only be worried about what your next step is. Being single is a gift. Don't run from it because it's uncomfortable at times. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on Dating Today, a conversation about modern dating issues. My name is Brock Olsen. I'm a dating coach located here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I am joined by my good friend and co-host, Carlos. And today we have Lexi White, who's going to be weighing in on today's topic, which is competition and beauty standards in today's relationships. Add it up. All right, so today's topic is something that I think a lot of people can really resonate with, which is modern beauty standards and how it affects our expectations and really shapes the reality of our dating experiences and our relationships. We have with us Lexi White. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Lexi White is a former Miss East Tennessee, so she's got that pageantry background. Mm-hmm. She knows exactly what that competition level in the beauty world is about, but she also has a lot to bring to the table and the conversation regarding like how that affected her, how she's made that into a positive in her life today, how that kind of affected her dating and those expectations, but also how she today is managing that in her entrepreneurial lifestyle, which, by the way, she is an entrepreneur with her tasting company, In Good Taste. She's also a travel vlogger and a recent podcaster with Lex Appeal. Yeah. So check that out on iTunes, Spotify, all that good stuff. How many episodes have you gotten?
Just launched on Tuesday, so we're just 48 hours out.
Nice. Yeah. Congratulations on that. I know that's a really, really big step. I know you've been looking forward to that, so
I have.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Well, what we want to talk about today is when we get online and we're on social media, we're on Instagram, Facebook, all these types of things that show what it's like to have relationship goals and all the beauty standards that you're bombarded with kind of every single day. It can kind of skew what reality really is, what your expectations are in life and relationships. But there's a really negative aspect to that, and it can warp what we really need to be focusing on, which is who we are and who we're building ourselves to be. Lexi, when you were going through your beauty pageant days, how old were you at this time?
I started at 23 and ended at 24.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you did this for a solid year.
At least a year, yeah.
Okay.
Year and a half.
Tell us a little bit about like how you got into that, what that experience was like, some of the things that you experienced like mentally, like what were some of the things that you know for a fact shaped the person who you are today, which is a very confident person, somebody who doesn't rest on their looks, but you're very, very about hard work. Your personality is fucking fantastic. You're one of my favorite people. Tell us just a little bit about that story.
Yeah, so I actually in 2012 was diagnosed with anxiety and depression in February of that year. And just a few months after that, my Nana, who was Miss Tennessee in 1957, actually,
nice. She
passed away unexpectedly. She was only 73, so it was obviously a big shock. Mm-hmm. And mind you, my whole life I've been very athletic, very not a makeup person, not hair. Like
very tomboy.
Yeah, very tomboy. You
Gotcha.
know, like I like to dress up, but like my dad,
sure.
It was always kind of funny. I think I got grounded in like 8th grade for wearing eyeshadow on a school trip. So like my dad was like trying to keep me a little kid as long as possible. So I don't think I was even allowed to wear makeup till I was like 17. And by that point I had passed the point of knowing how to do it.
Good job, Dad, by the way.
Yeah, it was a good call. I appreciate it now for sure. But yeah, so when that happened, I kind of just had this crazy idea to go compete at Miss Tennessee in her honor, which when I told my family, it was like, they were like, wait, what? Like, honey.
So she passed away, and that's what gave you the idea.
Yeah, so that was kind of the inspiration behind it. At that point, so she passed away in June of that year. So that was I want to say like a week and a half before that year's Miss Tennessee. So the following year was when I competed in the local pageants. You have to compete and win a local pageant to be able to go on to state.
Sure.
So I did that. I competed at 3, won the third one, which I was literally like just kind of doing it for practice, and I won it. I was just 100% myself, and I had been battling all this anxiety and depression. And so for me, the past few months of that, before winning this pageant, I laid around all day. I was in bed. I wasn't exercising. I kind of lost that will to do anything. I was in college. I should have been out with my sorority sisters and having a good time, and I wasn't. And at that point in time, mental health was not talked about like it is today. Not. It is not this topic of, hey, let's lay it all out on the table. It was very taboo. And so
for sure,
when I won that pageant, each contestant has a platform, something they're passionate about. And I really wanted mine to be mental health. I, even at that point, knew that I had actually gotten a dog right around the time I had been diagnosed, and I'd tell everybody she was like my angel sent from heaven, like got me out of bed, I had to go walk. I was responsible for something else other than myself.
Served as that motivator.
Exactly, exactly. So it paired that dog with pageants. It was kind of like hand in hand. Okay, I'm working out again. I'm taking care of this other being. And so I kind of had this thought of, service animals and like that emotional support dog before it was anybody could get it kind of thing.
Did other people know you were going through this? Or was this a silent battle?
It was a silent battle. So, I had this idea to talk about it, but in the pageant world, there's a lot of stigma. People, even still, it's more talked about, like we said today. But when I told somebody that that was in the pageant world, I was like, this is what I want my platform to be. I'm very passionate. I don't want people to feel alone.
Right.
They were like, you're not going to win with that platform.
Are you sure?
Yeah, they were like,
Gotcha.
this is not, if you want any chance of winning, that's not the way to go.
What was your talent, by the way? I'm just curious.
I was a singer. I sang, my first year, I sang Crazy by Patsy Cline. And then my second year, I sang House of the Rising Sun.
Love it. Good,
yeah,
good.
I getting up on stage was like kind of a thing, but I took a bunch of singing lessons and found songs that worked with my voice, and would not consider myself a singer by any means of the word, but I digress. So it was, that was a reality check of where we were at as a society with the mental health.
Sure.
And I, like I said before, I had been laying in bed, I had gained a bunch of weight, being on antidepressants, all of this stuff. My life looked really bleak, honestly. And so when I won that pageant, you have to be Miss America ready when you go compete at state. Because if you win, there's only a set amount of time before you
you're
go.
On the big one.
Yeah, exactly. And so
ready.
You had to be ready. So I went from this one extreme of laying in bed, doing nothing, to this polar opposite, working out twice a day, 6 days a week, eating like bird food. Like I had half a protein bar before my workout, half of one after, a protein shake, and like chicken. And I was very picky back then. I'm not as picky now, but I literally would eat like a chicken breast and like some macaroni and cheese. And that was it. So I went from one mindset to another. And that was kind of like the kickstart of my battle with disordered eating and body dysmorphia that I still, at times, yes, I'm confident in myself, but I still have times where I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh my God, I hate this. And it's kind of crazy to look back at. I didn't really think I had ever felt anything like what I feel now before that. And like, I can't say that, the pageants were all negative, because it really wasn't. It was such a good thing for me to get myself out of my comfort zone, to get on stage. I literally had to take hair and makeup lessons because I didn't know how to do it. Literally had to take it because you have to do your own hair and makeup at the pageants. And so I had no idea what I was doing. And
well, you're there with other people who are competing, other young women.
Right.
Tell us what's the state of mind of these girls as well? Are they battling similar demons, similar stuff? I mean, what's that like? I mean, obviously you're competing with each other, so it's dog eat dog. It's very serious, but like surely you have some camaraderie and you have these conversations. Like, I'm also experiencing something as well. Like, what's that like?
Well, so I think at the end of the day, of course, you had those like, people that were trying to like psych other girls out, and
because it's competitive.
It is.
Beauty world is very, very competitive.
But I will say my experience with it was that all of those women are so qualified to be up on that stage, and just, you're not the only one that has that qualification for that crown, for that that representation of your state. And so it's kind of humbling. It's like you go into it and you're like, oh, I'm going to win this. But then you're like, well, dang, she's got it. But again, like I said, back then, that wasn't talked about, But I look back now and I'm like, we were all kind of silently battling that, whether it's girls taking laxatives to make sure that they make weight, or, putting on so much makeup that they don't look like themselves, or getting plastic surgery, which I am very supportive. You do whatever you want to make yourself feel good, but you shouldn't have to do that to get a crown on your head, to be a state representative, to go to Miss America. The pageant itself should be what it says it is, not what the underlying things are. The scholarship pageant aspect of it, because any of the girls that I competed with could walk into the craziest job interview and they'd pass it with flying colors. You had a 10-minute rapid fire question interview, and you had to know. It could be anything from what's going on in Syria to what's your favorite color. Yeah. And you had to be ready for that. And I think that had mental health been something that had been more talked about, I think it would have been a really different experience for a lot of people.
For sure.
And I think we would have, my first year, I had a couple of girls that didn't come back until the following year. They skipped a year because it was so negative.
It's so hard
on
mentally.
Their body. Yeah, it was.
And
it
on
was,
the body, of course, yeah.
I was going to say, mentally, physically, it was, they recognized that. I knew that I aged out at 24. So I was like, well, I don't have the break to take. But they knew what it was doing to their mental health. And a lot of them were, I commend them very much for recognizing that and saying, I got to take a year.
So to compete in this pageant, you have to be 24, or is it 25 and under?
24 and under,
24 and under. So it is really for very young, very impressionable young women who are still establishing who they are, what their value is, what they bring to the table, lack of better words. And if you don't win, I can only imagine how shattering that would be. And Carlos, you have, I guess let's look at the male perspective. Yeah. Give your experience, the male perspective of that, what your experience has been.
Yeah. So very competition based as well. But I think for us, it boils down to sports. And for me, a lot of my life and the competition in my life was based around soccer.
Yep.
And then after I was done playing soccer, I became a professional soccer referee, where you might make 100 decisions in a game and get 99 of them right. Yep. But the one you miss is the one that your coach at the end of the game is talking to you about. What did you consider there? Why did you make that decision? Were you in the right space?
Yep.
Did you look at it properly? So it's all about one moment and competing to either win a game or win a trophy or win a prize or be the best, be a professional, get that contract that pays you to win a game. It's very interesting, and there's a lot of similarities, because then we go into modern dating relationships, which is what the podcast is about, and you see this competition happening between men and women, not only externally, but then in the midst of the relationship. Yeah. So it's really interesting, but I think the male side is sports and how that affects us.
For sure. And let's take it beyond the sports. Let's take it beyond our pageantry days and take it into our adult lives. I know for men, if you're not rocking the business world, if you're not making your name, if you're not bringing in a certain amount of money, you're nothing. And society does a very good job at making sure you know this fact. That if you're not at a certain point, you're going to feel very inadequate. You're going to struggle in social groups. You're going to just struggle for confidence, and men struggle big time with their mental health because of that very reason. Yeah. And then, Lexi, when you're out of the pageantry days, if you've been in for 2, 3, 4 years, I know you're only in for one. Yeah. If you've been in there since 16 or even younger, you see these girls that are you got the shows what is it where they're 3 or 4 years old? You're starting them then. Hey, this is where your value is derived, and then if you get some rejections or you're not getting crowned, and you've been told that's the only place that you're really valuable, you have some serious issues, and you see that in the way they behave in their relationships and the way they date, because and men do this, constantly trying to find approval, trying to be accepted, trying to do whatever it is to make them feel adequate. And beauty standards, the beauty world, competition period, if you're not doing it right, if you don't have the right people around you showing you that you have value beyond just those very small and very fine aspects of competition, if you don't know that you're valuable beyond that, like it's going to wreck
Yeah.
you for a very long time.
Absolutely.
And why so many people actually, I think, need therapy.
Yeah.
We have today, like what's something that we all argue about. You probably have like an older generation and younger generation arguing about participation trophies. And why do we want to do that? Well, we want people to feel good about competing. Now, not everybody's supposed to win. We understand that. So that's always a really difficult balance. Lexi, tell us a little bit about the journey from your pageantry days to where you are now. Because if anybody got on your Instagram and went back, like scroll, and look at your progression for like the last 6-7 years, it is night and day.
Yeah.
The amount of confidence that you have in every aspect of the things that you do, that you show to everybody, it's amazing. I absolutely love that. Tell us kind of how you embraced this part of you, because there are so many women who are self-conscious, regardless of if they were in like competing in pageants.
I was gonna say, it doesn't have to be a pageant thing to have your confidence shaken.
Exactly.
Welcome to modern world, like we're talking about.
Exactly. So how did you step into that? How did that process come?
I think it was very gradual. I can't think of like one defining moment. You know, after pageants, I packed up and moved to New York, which was a pretty spontaneous thing for me to do. And I like to think of myself as a spontaneous person. I don't know if many people would describe me that. I'm kind of more of a planner, but I just knew that it was calling me there. And I tell people all the time, I think I grew more in the 3 years that I lived there than I ever had in Chattanooga. One, age difference, obviously, that second half of your 20s, you're growing, you're finding out a lot about yourself.
Sure,
but,
as you should be, yeah.
Right, absolutely. But I think that it was at such a time that I was so impressionable, and like, you know, I was, you know, one aspect of New York, or at one point in New York, I was working all the time and kind of almost went back into that pre-pageant, not depressed per se, but eating a lot, not really working out. And then I started working at Equinox, which is a big gym there, and I met all these people who were working out pretty, you know, very consistently, and they worked out hard for an hour or so, and then they'd go out and have this fun time. And I like that right there alone, just that balance was a huge shift for me, because I didn't know any different. I thought it was one extreme or the other. It was either
most people do.
Right.
Most people do.
And there is that balance. It's hard to find. And
everybody's balance is different.
Yes, 100%.
Everybody's balance is completely different.
It's completely different. And so I think that was a big thing for me. And then, you know, just having that life experience of working for some corporate jobs and finding out what I want and what I don't want. And part of that comes down to where I'm at with my tasting company. I knew when I moved home back to Chattanooga, after working at Equinox, I knew that I wanted to start sharing that balance that I had found with other women. And I did that through what was my fitness company called House of Balance. It was an online fitness program for women. We had men do it as well, but that was kind of our target audience because of everything we're talking about today. And that, I think, almost sharing what I had found with other women really almost helped me, even because it was like, okay, yeah, I'm sharing it with them, but I'm also reinstilling it in myself. And so I knew when I moved home, I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to make my own schedule and work from wherever.
Nice.
And I was going to do whatever it took to get there. And I think, look, me starting this podcast is like so crazy, but I have not really ever felt this sure. And it's just this, I think when you take the time to get to know yourself and be willing to go through those moments where you're like, I don't know if this is the right thing, take those risks and be willing to fail. I don't consider House of Balance shutting down a failure. I think it was a very successful company, but I ultimately have decided, you know, what I wanted for House of Balance, the message behind it, I can translate that to people better through a podcast. And so it wasn't a failure. It was just a stepping stone to that next level. And I think
it was that step to get
exactly.
there.
And so I think, you know, I told somebody actually today, I was like, you know, it was so weird on Tuesday. I pressed, you know, release on the episodes, and I was like, I'm like surprisingly not nervous. And it was weird because we're usually nervous in things that are new and scary, but it was just like, it felt right. And I felt aligned with my purpose and what I was supposed to do. And that's just, I just hope that everybody can find that, you know.
For sure.
So I think you have to take the steps to be uncomfortable and be willing to fail at whatever that is, because let's be honest, there are very few people that get it right the first try, and you're not supposed to.
I was going to say, I would say
it's not very fun to do it that way.
It's not. It feel kind of unfulfilling because you need a few failures for it to feel valuable.
Makes you appreciate it, 100%.
Of course,
it's
100%.
about those iterations and that growth along the process, not just reaching that goal. And I think that's what we have gotten to in that first part of the conversation is like not everything is just like win the prize or meet the goal. It's about this process. It's about the evolution in between.
The process and the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's and I would say that because we are in such a go get it, go win, go compete, that we don't really get to enjoy the process or the journey. And it's always about getting to the finish line, and everybody's journey is completely different. Everybody's timeline is completely different, which kind of gets into this next part where so many people, because we have beauty standards or relationship standards or expectations that we see on social media, the relationship goals, everybody seems to be in such a damn rush to get into a relationship or to get married.
Yep, absolutely.
Or have kids. And I did put it in that order for a very specific reason. What, Carlos, do you think could help some people like in adjusting a little bit their approach to what is important in their life, like to make sure they're not rushing to please other people?
I think it comes down to a couple things, and the first one, and I think you touched on it, is knowing who you are and where you are in your process. What are the things that you're working on? And at times, if there's certain things that you're working on, you can't include other people in.
Oh, for sure.
You have to kind of like hunker down, and it's just you, and you got to sort that through. Then you can kind of get to this place where like, okay, like I got a grasp on this. Like now I can start including other people and widening that circle, and then including people and seeing what their issues are and talking through that stuff. So I think it's got to be a little bit separated where most people are just like, I'm going to go all the way into this relationship. I'm giving them all my shit and we're going to sort it out together. Like, I don't know, man. I think it might be better to like have your stuff together and then go into a relationship, not like ever expecting to be fully a healed individual or fully like having it figured out.
I'm not even sure if there's such a thing.
Well, we all have emotional baggage, just a matter of who can help you carry it.
And there's a difference between the constant unloading and the constant assuming that somebody else is going to take your baggage. And that's what I mean is like, like I'm okay carrying my stuff because I know what that is and I've identified it and how I work through that. Have you done the same thing? Cool. Now we're on a road to like do something that fits together, or we like each other enough to want to be around each other a lot. Cool. Like then you find moments of alignment. But this, I'm gonna go into a relationship so that all my problems are solved. Like no.
To solve your problems is like you should have the majority of your problems should be solved. The reason you get into a relationship is so that you're able to share the gifts that you can bring to a relationship, not so somebody can help you out, not so you can have a come up. Like that's not what these relationships are for. But we get so many people that jump into that and then think, hey, this is hey, I've made it. I got someone that's going to take care of me, and before you know it, you're married or having kids with the worst person you possibly could. So everyone just slow down a little bit. Like you got some time. And Lexi, you recently had a birthday.
I did.
I love that your mentality about life is where it is. I know that this particular birthday was special. Tell me, though, and tell everybody that's watching.
There's people out there.
There's some people out there. What have you experienced as somebody who's in that 30 range regarding people pushing their relationship agenda onto you?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you're this age. Where's your man? Where's your kids? Where's your house? Why aren't you married?
Right.
Like, that's also something that a lot of people are going to be struggling mentally with is dealing with all those social constructs. Tell us how you've dealt with that, and you've dealt with it beautifully, by the way.
Thank you. I honestly been dealing with it since I was like 25. I love my dad so much.
Yep.
I'll never forget when I told him I was going to move to New York, which again, I'm his little girl. I always will be. But when I told him I was going to move to New York, he was like, "You're 25. You should be settling down and starting a family." And I was just like, Absolutely not. That sounds terrible. I'm going to run, like, pack my bags and get to New York.
But that
as
was
fast.
the norm like 20, 30 years ago.
Absolutely. Well,
like
my
everyone
mom
It's
was-
also
my
huge
mom-
in the South.
100%.
Where we are.
The Southern living is completely different. And
Sure.
I think, my mom was 21. My dad was 26 when they got married. And I kind of had thought for the, most of my life that I need to be married by 21. That's how it's supposed to be. Have multiple kids by the time I'm 30. And then...
Relationship goals.
Exactly. And then I think moving to New York was a huge thing for me.
Nice.
Because I was seeing all these people who were like 30, not even being in the dating world. And then they weren't getting married till they were 35. And a lot of them weren't having kids and said, look, I love kids. I'm just not, or I hate kids, whatever. Like, they didn't want any. And so I think that for me really changed my perspective there.
Like that it's okay.
Right.
It's
that it was
okay.
like, okay.
Because down in the
outside
South,
of
you
this-
got to have
I was
that
gonna
stuff
say,
locked
outside
down.
of this Southern bubble, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, there's actually a world outside of you find a husband in college and then you get married and have babies. And I didn't, once I moved to New York, I just didn't feel like it was for me. And then, and you and I have obviously talked about me being in a relationship for the past 3 years. And, it wasn't that I wasn't ready to get married, but I think I just still felt like, why am I rushing? I don't need to rush. Like, I knew I had
Because you force it. You make it so unhealthy and unnatural by doing that.
And I think when, kind of like what you're talking about of, you got to know yourself. And it wasn't that I didn't know myself, because I think I had taken a lot of that time in New York to learn about myself and who I was and what I wanted. And I think I just had all these other goals that I was like, I haven't achieved these yet.
Yeah.
And not that you can't do things. I mean, people that are married all the time have kids, like, achieve these incredible goals. But I knew for myself that if I went down one path, the other path wasn't going to happen.
It either won't happen or minimally it's going to be postponed significantly. So,
So I think, one, kind of joking about it and like just being very upfront. I mean, you guys know, what you see is what you get with me. I'm going to be very, no filter all the time, pretty much,
Hashtag Lex appeal.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think just kind of being honest, even with strangers, I'm like, I just turned 31. I went through a breakup 3 months ago. I was like, I'm happy. I'm like, damn, it feels good to be single. I can stay in bed till 7 p.m. if I want to. I'm like, I don't have to deal with any kids.
Embracing
man.
singleness, man, it's a gift. It really is.
It really is. My mom, it was funny, about a month after my breakup, my mom sent me this TikTok and it was amazing. It was like a long audio, but this girl is talking about her single life and how, it's a chapter and you could meet the love of your life tomorrow. Yeah. And then your singleness is done.
Yep.
And this chapter of being single isn't forever.
Sure.
I mean, it might be. I don't know.
Hey,
we'll see. We'll
never
see.
know.
But most likely it's not. And I need to make sure I'm embracing every second of it because one day it will be gone. Whether that's in 5 years or 15 years, whatever that looks like. And I'm not going to get that time back.
And you should enjoy that chapter of singleness. It shouldn't be something you're desperately trying to escape from. Right. Singleness is a gift because it allows you the only time in your adult life to focus on yourself, 100%. To grow at your pace, to only think about yourself, to only be worried about what your next step is. Being single is a gift. Don't run from it because it's uncomfortable at times. Yeah.
And it is. It's, having been in a relationship for 3 years, that's a long time.
I was going to say, if you're in a bad relationship, that's uncomfortable.
I was going to say, and we know we've had, it was not a healthy situation, and that's okay, but I loved that person, and I was like, I'm going to stick it out. Like, I want it to work. Sure. And that's okay, too, but I'm even at times, I'm like, I love being single, but I still miss having that person to, like, wake up and text or just, like, have somebody to snuggle and watch a movie with. Like, that sucks sometimes, but at the same time, it's also like, hey, and you and I talked about this, about the change, the shift in mindset for me after moping around and being so sad for about a month or so. I mean, I was devastated. And then I had this like thought popped in my head, and it was just like, I didn't lose this person. I got a chance to find Lexi again. Yes. I got a chance to chase the dreams that I have had bubbling underneath and under the surface.
You postponed, you shelved them for so long.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we do that. We
100%.
will shelf ourselves and our priorities to accommodate that relationship. And if that relationship isn't going to feed us and it's not fulfilling, like, we're going to feel that. 100%. We're going to be like, hey, we're missing some ingredients that make me who I am. So.
I mean, and I think, too, touching on the social media aspect of it, one, having been in that relationship that was toxic and unhealthy, but posting social media where everybody thought everything was great and everybody's like, oh my God, I can't wait for y'all to get married. And it was just like,
Yep.
Y'all don't know. And so it's kind of changed my perspective of looking at pictures and knowing, look, that relationship may be great, and I'm sure it is, but it's not perfect.
For sure.
Because guess what?
Never is.
Even if you're very real on social media, and we know all I am, like, I want to be as raw and real and relatable as possible, but during relationships, you're not showing the fights. That's private. That's
100%.
That's behind closed doors.
100%.
You're only posting the good stuff.
Yep.
I may be posting about my negative mental health that day. I'm not going to post about me fighting with my boyfriend.
Yeah, you don't know. You don't know their struggles. You don't know if they are having horrible issues. You don't know if they had a miscarriage.
Yeah,
You don't know if they just lost a job. You don't know if they just lost a family member, or anything that can compromise the health of a relationship. You have no idea. So idolizing and getting your standards from social media is one of the fastest ways to be unsatisfied in your own life, let alone your relationship. So, that's super huge. So I love that you're super authentic and you're really an amazing example for a lot of women to follow because you are so real. There's one post that you did. I did some light stalking, and you're in a bathing suit, but you're kind of sitting a little bit like this. And if anybody can find this, what color is the bathing suit? It's like a burnt orange.
Back in November.
It's back in November.
Fall color.
Do you remember at all what you said? Because if you can remember or pull your phone out and just a little bit of that will be so powerful for so many people.
It's
one of the reasons.
I know exactly which post you're talking
This was
about.
This post is why I wanted you to be here. So
awesome.
I need it.
Okay, let me pull it up. So just some context. I tore my quad last year trying to pop, lock, and drop it on my 30th birthday. Either I was really committed to the dance move or I'm a terrible dancer, and I know it's not the second one, so it had to have been commitment.
Debatable.
So,
it's debatable.
So I had to stop exercising in like July. So that was kind of, and I'm obviously very fitness. I'm a certified personal trainer.
Yeah.
You know, like fitness is huge for my mental health,
Sure.
but also physical.
And if you get an injury,
it's all connected.
it's you're done. And so I posted this picture of me kind of slumped over. You guys can see, you know, I've got rolls, I got cellulite, you know, all that stuff. So this was
no filter.
Loved it.
Loved it.
I stopped filtering my pictures in 2017. Thank God. I look back now and I'm like,
Beautiful.
oh, Lexi.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Oh, you were not fat.
Hey.
No.
So the caption says, today was my first time putting on a bikini since I tore my quad and I haven't been able to exercise in 5 months. Let me tell you, I looked in the mirror and felt less than fantastic about myself. Looking back at me, I saw a body that is out of shape, that feels weak, that's tired, that reminds me of the plans that I've had to put off. The mental struggles that I've endured from lack of exercise, the frustration of knowing what my body is capable of and how it looks when it's being taken care of with exercise, and it's not this. The body wearing this bikini is different than I've known, but this body is being taken care of in new ways right now. It's being taken care of with rest, with recovery, with physical therapy. It's a little squishier and fuller right now, and just 3 years ago, heck, maybe even last year, I wouldn't have even taken these pictures, let alone y'all see them.
Right.
But I said, but I know my relationship with my body is healing because right now, as I started listing all the things that I wanted to change, as soon as I was cleared for exercise, a voice popped up louder than the negative saying, be thankful. Thankful that my body was able to tell me that something was wrong when it did, so the injury wasn't worse. Thankful my body is able to take care of me when I'm injured. Thankful my body is carrying me through those mental struggles. Thankful for my body to be able to slowly but surely heal itself to get me back to house of balance. That was still going on.
Right.
Back to the gym and back to me feeling like myself. I know this chapter is temporary. I'll get back to exercising, and this will be a time I can look back and appreciate my body for all it did for me. But today, I'm rocking this bikini knowing that my body is incredible and powerful and strong even in a time of weakness. Wear the bikinis, ladies. Life's too short to think of our bodies as anything less than amazing.
Yes.
And then I made a comment about my double jointed elbows.
Palate cleanser.
I love it. No,
gotta end on a funny note.
Exactly
just
right.
the raw confidence, how you embrace the phases of your life. You know, being injured, that's obviously a very big mental struggle for a lot of people who sometimes we take our body for granted.
100%.
And when you get an
Absolutely.
injury, like I've played a lot of soccer. Diana Carlos will attest to this. I'm injured all the damn time. They laugh at me just like
Way too often.
I'm going to need a walker
You're
in
so
about
old.
2 years. I know that's
a
so
problem.
old. It can really take a toll on you, but I love how confident you are.
Thank you.
I love that.
It doesn't come easy. And I just want everyone to know that it's not.
It's not.
It's
it
not
takes
an easy
it takes
thing.
years of finding where your value is.
Well, and also some days it takes bullshitting yourself.
You have to. Well, you
have
got to
just
convince yourself.
Say it,
Yeah,
because
you've got
if you
to.
say it actually out loud, like verbally, say it, not just in your head.
Yeah.
Say, you know what? No, this isn't perfect. This isn't exactly where I want to be.
For sure.
But
For sure.
I'll get there. Or even if you don't, screw it. You know, like
Yeah.
you're gonna learn to love yourself, because the more you positive talk you can give yourself
Mm-hmm.
about body or mental or whatever you're doing. This applies to both men and women, of anything that you're trying to achieve. Sometimes you have to bullshit your way through that,
Yeah.
like fog, and I think that's okay.
Carlos, how did you get through mentally, like one of the down points in your life? I know that several years ago you were kind of in a car accident, and things like that weren't in the most positive light for you. Like, how did you process some of that stuff? Because I know a lot of guys are going through a lot of struggles, as well as women are, with the things that Lexi is experiencing. Tell us kind of how you've gone through some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think first for men, it's important to acknowledge the fact that it's okay that things aren't okay, right? Like whether that's emotional or with business or physical, like whatever, right? The female orientation is mostly around body image. And like, what does this look like?
Yeah.
What are you presenting? For guys, it's like, what have we accomplished? How much money have we made?
Success.
Whatever.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure,
exactly.
sure.
And so ultimately, I think it's just about ignoring all that stuff, and it's what Lexi's talking about. It's getting to a place where you've ignored the bikini, you've ignored how much money you're supposed to be making, you've ignored what other people think about you, you've ignored all of this external stuff, social media, and that confidence then starts to come from within, right? It's not based on you.
And it's not an immediate overnight thing.
Yeah,
it is
and it takes a process.
Yes.
And you're gonna have that point where you feel like you got it, and then you're gonna get knocked
It's a
straight
roller
back down,
coaster.
Yep.
and then you learn again, and in that plane of confidence, that plane of like almost not give a fuck about what's going on around me, like that goes up, and it's like, okay, well, it's gonna take a lot more to knock me down, but that's gonna happen, and it's just this constant reorientation around who you are and what you want in your life and what you are calling into your life, what you're accepting into your life. And we talk about it all the time. Like, if your standard isn't like growing with you, then it's going backwards, and it's gonna slip, and you're gonna start making decisions based on a lower standard than what you want, and then you're gonna start accepting things, and then sure enough, your life is gonna be completely different than what you want it to be, because it's based on something else.
For sure.
No, like, I'm gonna maintain my standard, I'm gonna grow my standard, and this is only up, and I think that takes just a certain amount of disregard for anything other than like what you want to do and what you value as important, right?
Sure.
Like, and I'm not talking about the negative side, or like, don't devalue people, don't like hurt people, don't have that aspect, but like, if you're not harming people, like, do what you want, be happy, figure out what that is, and then find the people.
Don't be afraid to let people down.
Yeah, find the people in your life and the situations in your life that like root for you in that, that make you go forward in that, not the people who are like, you're changing, you're doing things differently.
Ew, you're changing.
Weird. Yeah, like, that's strange.
The only people that hate when you're changing is the ones that benefit from you being the way that you were.
100%. 100%.
Yep. And so I think a lot of people, we talked about family, right? Family is a part of that external orientation. Your current friend group, like, a part of that external orientation. So you got to just like sink into yourself, figure out what your values are, and then once you truly figure that out, it'll start flowing out naturally. You won't have to worry about that confidence or like a story or like what you want to talk about. It'll happen.
Because let's say at the very core of it comes down to you being able to respect yourself. And if at the end of the day, whatever it is that you've experienced or however you've behaved during those experiences, if you can't respect the way that you handled that, like, that's going to knock you back a couple pegs. So making sure that the way that you carry yourself is respectable in your eyes, like, that's, in my opinion, the basis of core confidence. Because you got a couple layers. Your first layer of confidence is like just how you like your persona, how you look, like, I'm wearing a nice shirt, my hair's like we look nice. That's a very shallow level of confidence. And well, we'll just talk about beauty standards. That's usually where it stops. it's why it's so fragile. So when somebody peels it back, and now we're like, okay, but what are your values? And then you start seeing what's important to somebody, or you evaluate your values, and you're like, oh, well, I'm very shaky on certain terms. You're going to see that you're not as valuable as you thought you were, and you're not as confident. Like, you're able to be shaken really, really deeply. And then the very core is what you know that you constantly bring to other people's lives, what your morals are, what is important to you, and those things should be unshakable. Yeah. And if you're able to get those things in check, those unshakable core beliefs, I think that's really where that core confidence is going to come from. So when you experience those lows, you're able to go back to this, like, hey, this is who I am. Right. I'm not the clothes I'm wearing. I'm not the car I'm driving. This core is who I am. And if you get that set up, you can't be destroyed. Right. No matter how bad of a day you're having, and no matter how amazing your life is, you have some shitty days. It doesn't matter how good you got it going on. You're going to have some shitty days, but being able to rely back onto those will keep you from falling into depression, mental health issues. Not saying like everything's bulletproof, but it will definitely help. So,
and that's the stuff that's attractive, right? Like that's what's going to attract the person who you want in your life. That isn't based on any of the bullshit. It's like, this is who I am. This is who I truly am, what I truly want, how I truly want to show up in the world. And if you acknowledge that, then we have something to talk about.
For sure.
Absolutely.
And if it's just about being some shaky, wishy-washy, like, you're pretty and you caught my attention, so I'm going to give you attention, like, that's a bad way to go into a relationship.
We need more.
I was going to say, and it's very cliche to sit there and say, you know, looks fade. What's the content behind what looks good? But
cliches are often true.
Which is, I was going to say, they usually are. But that's the issue with, you know, talking about beauty standards or dating apps. You know, you've got, okay, great, you're hot, but what else do you have?
What else you got?
Like, what?
If you were blind, or if somebody was blind, how would you sell them on you? Like, what do you got? What do you bring to the table?
Because you're not going to sit there and describe what you won't like to someone who's never going to be able to see you.
Not only that,
they don't care.
They won't care how well you describe it.
Exactly.
It won't matter. So making sure that you're developing who you are to a very, very specific core, so that you're unshakable, that you can't be destroyed, I think is super, super important in just making sure that you're happy in life, that the things that society pushes onto you, whether that be early relationships, whether that be beauty standards, whether that be success standards in competition, I think is just the overall what we really need to be focusing on. And I think it will help a lot of people who are struggling with negative mental health issues, for sure. All right. Well, I think that's going to about wrap it up. Anything else, guys? Yeah?
I think that was good.
Well, Lexi, thank you so much for joining Carlos and I today. This was a really, really good conversation. Your background is amazing, and I think everybody is going to appreciate you being so honest. And definitely follow her on Instagram, and make sure you guys are watching or listening to her podcast, Lex Appeal. All right, guys, thank you so much. We're going to see you guys next time.
Add it up.